Incandescent lamps are disappearing quickly, but it only seems to bother two groups of people. One of them is the light maximalists who really want the best lighting, and the other group is the highly sensitive minority who are actually bothered by lower quality lamps. And what they appreciate about incandescent lamps is their pleasant colors and natural spectrum, providing perceptual and also physiological benefits, their seamless tunability, through which they can perfectly mimic sunrise as well as wood fire for evening and night use, which benefits sleep quality. And they are also low in flicker, even in AC applications, and they produce no flicker on direct current. And their small filament is easy to focus, and so any kind of spatial distribution can be created more easily, which is not always so trivial with LEDs. But even if you are not a member of either of these two groups, I have a story for you about incandescent lamps and why they may not just disappear completely. The only main argument against them is their low energy efficiency. As blackbody radiators like the sun or wood fire, much of their output is in the invisible infrared range of the spectrum, which has physiologically beneficial properties, but from the point of view of lighting for vision only, they are considered a waste. And therefore, already in the 80s, several groups were working on recycling this wasted infrared heat energy onto the tungsten filament itself, thereby heating it. And this heating is otherwise, of course, done by the electric current. So the more energy can be recycled, the less electric energy will be needed for the same visible light output. And indeed, by the 1990s, some small improvements in efficiency have been made. And first, these technologies worked with simpler infrared reflectors around the filament to reflect the infrared frequencies onto the filament. And later, they moved on towards more tunable nanophotonic filters. And even the terminology is not really clear to me, probably because they always lagged some branding, because they never really took off. But so some people call them hybrid halogen lamps, which doesn't cover it all, because not all of them are halogens. And sometimes they are also referred to as IR halogens, standing for infrared halogens. Now, both of these terms are problematic, because GE, for instance, also had a hybrid halogen, which was a halogen bulb inside a CFL bulb. So these two are definitely not to be confused. And also, infrared halogen is confusing because it's exactly not infrared halogen. So the whole point is to filter out infrared. But anyway, I'll just use hybrid halogen from here on. And so through these developments, by 2012, a company called Venture Lighting International had a product called Vibrant 2X, which indeed, as the name says, achieved double the efficiency, namely 33 lumens per watt. So a 50-watt bulb was replacing a 100-watt bulb, and the light was virtually indistinguishable. And they also claimed that in the lab they had results of 45 lumens per watt already, and the 60 lumens per watt prototype was in development. And these bulbs had good lifetime, and they received very good reviews, and they were always sold out and hard to get. And then later in 2016, an MIT research project also reached this 45 lumens per watt level, which is an important number because regulations today set this as the lowest allowable threshold for general service lamps, so for these kinds of general purpose light bulbs. So basically incandescent lamps could reach this level and even exceed it by now. They should, according to the projections back in those days, but somehow instead they are being phased out everywhere. And so what is interesting here is that the time that these projects disappeared was when the fastest boom in LEDs really began. And in the 5 to 10 years from then on, they really took over everything, and apparently they stopped the development of these hybrid halogen lamps. And so what is interesting at this point today is that it seems like eventually, theoretically, the two technologies may even end up in a similar place. So why am I saying this? With LEDs currently, the highest luminous efficacy which has been reached is around 200 lumens per watt, referring to a usable lamp. So higher can be achieved, but here everything is a compromise. So the higher energy efficiency would then lead to an unacceptably low light quality. And the theoretical maximum is thereby around 300 lumens per watt. And again, everything here is a compromise between quality and efficiency. So while LEDs have developed very quickly, let's say in the past decade, now we can only expect some incremental progress moving on. On the other hand, halogens, the most efficient theoretical implementation for them could also reach 250 lumens per watt. So it is about the same level of luminous efficacy, but there's another aspect for why they might end up in a similar place. And that is that LEDs originally had a very choppy spectrum, and now with a lot of development, they are getting closer and closer to mimicking natural light. They will never reach that really, but they are getting closer, and they are getting closer at the expense of higher cost and also at the expense of efficacy. With halogen lights, it was exactly the other way around. Originally, they had a natural spectrum, full spectrum blackbody radiation, just like with wood fire or sunlight, but to achieve this increase in energy efficiency, the deep red and near infrared frequencies were somewhat chopped off, and thereby some health benefits disappeared, and also the originally perfect color rendering decreased slightly. So we see that in both technologies there's a compromise between quality and efficiency, and theoretically an acceptable middle ground might be achieved at the same level of efficiency. So the rest from here on is up to development, which to my knowledge is not really going on, or I haven't found anything about these hybrid halogen bulbs today. So let me know if you know something.